District. You need to announce.
I'm money though.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're very fortunate this evening to have with us Cranberry Pack 97 Cub Scout Arrow of Light Webelos Den. And if you will please rise, they will be posting the colors.
Okay. Attention, will the audience please rise? Color guard, advance.
And they will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color guard, post the colors. Color guard dismissed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and the Common Council.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll call to order the meeting of the Common Council of February 26, 2019. Clerk, if you'll please read the announcement and call the roll.
February 26, 2019. Please be advised, this meeting is being taped for audio and video broadcast. The meeting will also be closed captioned. It's important that everyone speak clearly into the microphones and only one person speak at a time. Assisted listening devices are available. Mr. Burnett.
Present.
Mr. Corsello. Mr. Hostin.
Present.
Mr. Sacchinelli.
Present.
Ms. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Melendez.
Here.
Mr. Ioannidis.
Present.
Mr. Dumas.
Here.
Ms. Young. Mr. Kites.
Present.
Ms. Siegelbaum.
Here.
Mr. Hempstead.
Here.
Mr. Sirenidis.
Here.
Mr. Igneri. Mr. Livingston.
Here.
12 present, you have a quorum.
12 present, thank you. Next item on the agenda, acceptance of the minutes of the special meeting of February 13th, 2019, the budget presentation. Do I have a motion?
I guess I'll do it, seeing Mr. Igneri isn't here tonight.
Mr. Kites makes the motion. Any discussion, corrections, deletions, omissions? Ms. Siegelbaum.
So where it says at the roll call, there were 7 common council members present and 8 absent. That word 3 should be removed.
Okay. Further corrections? Seeing none, Mr. Hostin, I'm sorry.
I was not here, but just on the roll call, my name does not have an L in it. That's fine.
Okay. Any further corrections, omissions? Seeing none, all in favor as of the minutes as amended? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so we have Mr. Dumas, Mr. Hostin, Mr. Sacchinelli, Ms. Melendez, Ms. Siegelbaum, and Mr. Sirenidis abstaining. Next item is the approval of the minutes of this February 13th, 2019 special council meeting. Do I have a motion? Mr. Hempstead moves. Discussion, any omissions, deletions, corrections?
I do.
Mr. Livingston.
On page 14, the first full paragraph, it talks about nepotism. Mr. Livingston clarified the city is not forgiving the loan and only interested in trying to create a nepotism. It's actually mechanism.
Spell check, huh?
Yes, spell check, yeah.
Okay, noting that correction.
Wondering
Any further corrections, deletions, omissions? Seeing none, all in favor of the approval of the minutes as amended? Opposed? Abstentions? Mr. Hostin, Mr. Sacchinelli, and Ms. Siegelbaum abstain, and Mr. Sirenides. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public participation. We have the list. While the clerk is getting the list, please address the council, state your name, address, and try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Lisa Brinton.
Lisa Brinton.
The opposite problem. I have to take my glasses off to read. Lisa Britton, 24 Highland Avenue. Tonight, I'm here to address the vote that you're going to take today on the budget cap. You're going to be voting tonight on the budget cap of $367 million, roughly, where 95.5% of that will be funded by Norwalkers. Less and less of our income tax dollars are getting returned to our city each year from Hartford, and that trend is set to continue. If teacher pensions come back to the municipalities, I fear we're going to be seeing even more for sale signs in town. Tonight I'm here because I read Mr. Kitey's comments in Nancy on Norwalk this morning, and there was nobody at the Finance Committee meeting, so I thought I would come. But I'm here tonight to kind of wave the yellow flag, the caution flag, to the council on what I consider to be fuzzy math going on right now in the city. We have a 3.3% increase in the city budget, but somehow we're drawing down $6 million, or 10% of the rainy day fund. How is that if, when recently, Mr. Mayor, you stated that the grand list grew by 16%? It just doesn't add up. And with all due respect, we are currently without a permanent finance director, despite Mr. Hamilton being a wonderful individual, but he has stepped in at the last minute. So I am concerned about the math. For years, I have expressed concerns and made recommendations regarding our sometimes chaotic and contradictory policies regarding our ordinances and the strategies on our land use. The latest being the tax credits being proposed for the Innovation District, or whatever we're calling it these days, especially as it relates to our ability to fund education. Our education budget makes up 60% of the overall city budget. I know it's an election year, so perhaps that's the reason why we're choosing to use the rainy day fund. But let me share a couple of other startling statistics. Since the mayor took office and many of you joined the council, our student enrollment has grown by 500 students, and our free and reduced lunch population, basically our measure of poverty in the city, has grown by 10%, from 47% to 57% in 5 years. Just as a reference point, and Mr. Burnett, I believe when you were on the Board of Ed, there's my glasses, our free and reduced lunch population was 23%. So with these trends and a questionable property revaluation, the need to use the rainy day fund for our operating expenses, and the potential policies that are going to be coming down the pike from Hartford, I ask you, are our budget and land use policy practices sustainable? Are they integrated? Think about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's it.
No one else has signed up to address the council. Is there anybody else that wishes to make a comment? Seeing none, we will close public participation. Under resignations and appointments, that we have no resignations. We have 3 appointments to the Board of Assessment Appeals as alternates. I'd like to move them all at once. We have Joe Dupree, Jane Reedy, and Rosa Murray. Do we have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move those all 3.
Mr. Burnett moves all 3. Discussion, comments?
I'd just like to comment. All 3 have been longtime residents of the Norwalk growing community. Joe Dupree has 24 plus years of experience as a realtor. Jane Redding has over 30 years of experience as a realtor. And Rosa Murray has 20 plus years as a public servant and a longtime member of the Board of Education. And Rosa truly knows Norwalk. So I would like to support that we move forward with these appointments.
Thank you, Mr. Burnett. Further comments? Seeing none, I would just like to say thank you to the three who had volunteered to serve. It's very challenging sometimes when you sit in this seat to try to find people that are willing to serve. The pay is not good, and the time commitment is sometimes very great. And so I know Ms. Murray is here, so thank you, Ms. Murray, for your willingness to serve. I don't think Jane Reedy's here, and I'm not sure if Ms. Dupree is here. I don't believe so. But anyway, it's a daunting task, especially during a reval year. So we thank you all. Seeing no further comments, I'll take a vote on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you. Under the mayor's remarks, oh, Rosa, would you want to come down and be sworn in?
Right there.
You sat over here a lot of times, so I can understand.
Rosa, if you please raise your right hand. You, Rosa Murray, having been appointed as an alternate member of the Board of Assessment Appeals of the City of Norwalk, do solemnly swear or affirm that you will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office according to your best skill and judgment, so help you God, upon the pains and penalties of perjury.
Thank you. Now you'll sign this
Sign
and
each of those.
sign both of them, then you can keep one.
And then I have a package for you as well. That's just your
You can
home.
read this tonight just before going to bed, Rosa.
I just came from the CA. Gang wants the best. They're playing this first round in the CX tonight.
Tonight?
It's Greenwich. Yeah, Greenwich, the blowout.
Where are they playing?
This is you. Here.
At Norwalk High.
Are we winning?
They won.
Oh, they won. It's over. Wow. Okay. Well, some next comment I have, Ms. Murray just gave us information that added to it. The Norwalk High School girls basketball team had an undefeated season. They are currently ranked number 1 in the state, having beaten New London, who was the previous number 1. I think the score was very close, 49-47 or something like that. But you know, it's the unbeaten season culminated with a win last week over Trinity Catholic, and it was also a close score, 42-39, I believe. But you know, these young ladies, it goes beyond playing basketball and what they do on the court. They have a cumulative grade point average of 3.0. And you know, so you know, kudos to not only the girls and the teachers and the staff at Norwalk High School and the people before that who helped these young ladies grow and develop, but also to Rick Fuller, the coach of the Norwalk High School girls basketball team. He holds them accountable for good grades and makes sure that they go to school. 'Cause education is number 1 with them. Basketball is number 2. And now they've taken the FCAC championship, and they're going into the state championship, the tournament, the double L's. And we wish them well because they've got a great team of young ladies. We're excited, and Ms. Murray just advised us that they played Greenwich tonight, and it was a blowout. Well, we don't want to say that because of Greenwich. I'm sure their girls are good too. But we're very proud of the Norwalk High School girls basketball team. We will, as a Common Council, be recognizing them at some point and having them come here for that recognition. So thank you. As you know, we are currently in the budget season. The Board of Estimate and Taxation will be continuing to meet. We had our first meeting last night with each department head. We will be meeting with all the departments to go over their budgets, to look at what they're asking for. I want to thank, again, I've done it before, but I want to thank Mr. Hamilton, Angela Fogel, Chitsame Lamb, who is also here from our finance department, for stepping up and really helping out with the budget and putting together, and we'll hear more comments about that later on, what I consider to be a very fair budget, giving the Board of Education their opportunity to continue with their strategic plan to make the high schools a 26 credit graduation requirement, which is really key to helping our young people be more competitive when it comes to getting accepted to the better schools, the other colleges, making them more competitive with other high schools that do have a higher graduation credit requirement. You'll hear more about the budget tonight, and I'm sure I'll have some more comments on that later on as we go, because we do have some interesting information that we'd like to share with you. On Saturday, March 4th at 9 a.m., March 9th.
Yeah.
There's a 4 on my glass here, I don't know why. On Saturday, March 9th at 11 a.m., come on out as we celebrate 2019 Norwalk St. Patrick's Day Parade. I believe this is the 4th year that we've done it. And the Grand Marshal will be William Ireland III. Most of you probably know the name. Bill is the head of the building department here in the city of Norwalk, a good all-around Irishman who will be proud to lead the parade, and it's a lot of fun. And as always, a grand time will be had by all. It ends at O'Neill's. And you're in for a treat if you go, because they have the Irish dancers, young ladies that come out and do the dancing and show off their skills. It's really, really fun to watch. So again, that's Saturday, March 9th at 11 a.m. And I think I've been corrected. I think Donna tells me it's the 3rd year, the 3rd parade. Okay, Mr. Livingston.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight's consent calendar will be read by Mr. Burnett. Next meeting will be Mr. Corsello, I believe. As a reminder to those watching, if your item is on the approved consent calendar, then that will means it has been approved and there'll be no further discussion. So, Mr. Burnett.
Thank you. I'd like to move the following items on the consent calendar. Item 7A1, accept and approve the report of the Claims Committee dated February 14, 2019. Item 7A2, for informational purposes only, the narrative on tax collections dated February 14, 2019. Item 7A3, for informational purposes only, monthly tax collectors report dated January 2019. Item 7A4, authorize a special capital appropriation totaling $75,000 to increase the available funds for sidewalk and curbing project as noted, and authorizing the issuance of $75,000 of general obligation bonds of the City of Norwalk to meet said appropriation. This eliminates $75,000 of unissued bond authorization of the Culpert Avenue sidewalk project as noted. Item 7B1, approve the use of Matthews Park by Lockwood Matthews Mansion Museum for the use of Matthews Park for a treasure hunt adventure to be held Sunday, June 2nd, 2019, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., with setup to begin at 11 a.m. and tear down no later than 5 p.m. on Sunday, June 2nd, 2019. Estimated attendance, 200. Item 7B2, authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into an agreement with Lockwood Matthews Mansion Museum for the use of Matthews Park for their old-fashioned flea market to be held Sunday, September 15, 2019, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Set up to begin at 7 a.m. with tear down no later than 6 p.m. on Sunday, September 15, 2019. Estimated attendance, 1,500. Item 7B3, authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into an agreement with Lupus Foundation of America for the use of Calf's Pasture Beach for the Walk to End Lupus Now, CT Norwalk, to be held Sunday, October 20th, 2019, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Set up to begin at 9 a.m. with tear down no later than 7 p.m. on Sunday, October 20th, 2019. Estimated attendance, 750 to 900. Item 7B4, authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into agreement with Norwalk Community Health Center, Inc. for use of Calf's Pasture Beach for their Ready, Set, Walk, and Keep Moving charity walk to be held Sunday, September 29th, 2019, from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. set up to begin at 8 a.m. with tear down no later than 1 p.m. on Sunday, September 29th, 2019. Estimated attendance, 200. Item 7B5, authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into agreement with Boundless Globe LLC for the use of Matthews Park for a backpack giveaway to be held Saturday, August 10th, 2019, from 12 noon to 5 p.m. Set up to begin at 9:30 a.m. with tear down no later than 5 p.m. on Saturday, August 10th, 2019. Estimated attendance, 100. Item 7B6, authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into agreement with Rally for Pancreatic Cancer, Inc. for the use of Pastor Beach for their Rally for Pancreatic Cancer car show to be held Sunday, May 5th, 2019, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. with a rain date of Sunday, May 12th, 2019. Set up to begin at 9 a.m. with tear down no later than 6 p.m. on Sunday, May 5th, 2019. Rain date Sunday, May 12th, 2019. Estimated attendance 450. Item 7B7, authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into agreement with the Norwalk Exchange Club for the use of Taylor Farm for their antique car show to be held Sunday, April 28, 2019, from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. with a rain date of Sunday, May 5th, 2019. Set up to begin on Thursday, April 25th, 2019. Rain date Thursday, May 2nd, 2019 at 8 a.m. with tear down no later than 6 p.m. on Sunday, April 28, 2019. Rain date Sunday, May 5th, 2019. Estimated attendance, 1,000. Item 7B8, authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into agreement with the Norwalk Seaport Association to use Veterans Park for the annual Oyster Festival to be held Friday, September 6, 2019, from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m., Saturday, September 7, 2019, from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., Sunday, September 8, 2019, from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Set up to begin at 8 a.m. on Friday, August 23, 2019, with tear down no later than 5 p.m. on Saturday, September 30th, 2019. Estimated attendance, 38,000. And there was a slight modification here in that we added Norwalk in front of the Seaport Association.
Okay.
Item 7B9, authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into agreement with the New England Auto Museum for the use of Matthews Park for their Father's Day car show to be held on Sunday, June 16, 2019, from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Set up to begin at 4 p.m. on Saturday, June 15th, with tear down no later than 5 p.m. on Sunday, June 16th, 2019. Estimated attendance, 100 to 200. And the slight modification here is that the date, Saturday, June 15th, was added. Item 7B10, authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into agreement with the Norwalk Karting Association for the use of Pastor Beach for the spring and fall 2019 season to be held on dates to be determined from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Slight modification here, we added dates to be determined. Item 7B11, technical correction item number 7A5 on the Common Council agenda of January 22nd, 2019, which reads as follows. Authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into agreement with the Norwalk YMCA Camp Sunrise for the use of Silvermine Elementary School grounds for their summer camp to take place Monday through Friday, June 24th, 2019, to August 16, 2019, from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Estimated attendance 150. The new authorized request is stated, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into agreement with the Riverbrook Regional Young Men's Christian Association, Inc., for the use of Silvermine Elementary School grounds for their summer camp Sunrise to take place Monday through Friday, June 24, 2019 to August 16, 2019, from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Estimated attendance, 150.
Thank you, Mr. Burnett. Any comments on the consent calendar as read? All right, hearing none, all in favor? Okay. Any opposed? None, unanimous. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Livingston. Item 7A5, Mr. Burnett.
Yes, I'd like to read the following resolution, and there's a motion. Whereas Section 1-289 of the Norwalk Charter requires that a majority of the Common Council vote to establish a specific spending limitation on locally funded expenditures during the process of establishing the next fiscal year's operating budget. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Norwalk that the maximum limit on total appropriations for the City of Norwalk for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019 shall be no more than $351,020,774. This appropriation cap represents total expenditures of $367,624,642, less estimated intergovernmental grants of $16,603,868. Be it further resolved that the result of this vote and resolution, together with the attached 2019-2020 budget guide, be forwarded by the clerk of the City of Norwalk to the Board of Estimate and Taxation.
Thank you, Mr. Burnett. Any discussion? Mr. Burnett.
Getting a little tired here. Let me take a breath. Just a short comment as chairman of the Finance and Claims Committee. Our goal is to keep tax rates as low as possible by allocating those funds necessary to maintain and in some cases improve services to our residents. The current budget presents reduced taxes for the majority of Norwalk single-family homeowners. We will draw down funds from the general fund balance to offset non-recurring one-time expenditures with the Board of Education, as well as provide tax relief to our residents during this reevaluation year. It is essential that this drawdown does not impact the city's posture of maintaining its AAA bond rating. We will continue to review the operating budget along with the Board of Estimate and Taxation with a goal of setting the final cap on April 9th. And I want to thank Tom Hamilton and Angela Fogel for your support during this process. And if there's any questions, they're here to assist with answering and addressing any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Burnett. Further discussion? Mr. Kites.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The budget process is a very complicated process in itself. But over the last few weeks, I've realized that a majority of the public basically doesn't understand the budget process, especially when it comes to the Board of Ed. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to clarify some points. And one big point is that the city could never give the Board of Ed less than it did the year before. And just to put that in perspective, which is during last fiscal year, Board of Ed received over $190 million this year with a 4.2% increase, which equates to a $7.9 million increase, bringing the total to $198.5 million. we're often asked the questions about how that works, and just wanted to get that point across and clarify that. And that being said, that if what is being proposed tonight is passed, that this budget will be undoubtedly the largest Board of Ed budget increase in the state of Connecticut for the third year in a row, which I'm proud of to be a part of, and many of you as well. And I will be supporting the mayor's recommendation this evening, including the $6 million drawdown, which I believe was the right decision because of the significant increase to the fund in the past year. But I also want to take a moment to send a message to the Board of Ed, a personal message to say that this may not be an option next year. So please spend the money that you're getting this year wisely. And that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Kites. Further discussion?
Nothing to come.
Mr. Livingston?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too will be supporting the budget, but I just want to make a couple additional points. One, I just want to note that we talked about before, that the budget reflects the agreement with the Board of Education, which continues to support the board priorities while at the same time recognizes the city's budget constraints. I mean, they made great progress, and I'm proud to be continuing to support them in their endeavors going forward. I'm also hopeful that this agreement is a model of cooperation going forward. And to that point, I just want to note to the people watching that for the first time, members of the council will be joining Dr. Adamowski and the board of members of the Board of Education at their annual retreat this coming summer, at which time we'll discuss the 2020-2021 operating budget and other items. So this will be well ahead of the budget season, and I hope it continues our spirit of cooperation going forward. I also just want to touch on the $6 million that we've talked about already so far, but as Mr. Burnett noted, this is consistent with our policies, and I just want to remind everybody that of the $6 million, $2.3 million is being used to fund one-time expenses of the Board of Education, as Mr. Burnett said. Also, and the $3.7 million remaining is for tax relief. And just to put in perspective, last year we took $3 million of the fund for tax relief, so it's really going up to $700,000. And to Mr. Kites' point, we're lucky to have significant growth in the fund balance over the last few years, but who knows if it's going to continue. So we have to be mindful of that going forward. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. Further discussion? Mr. Hempstead?
Sometimes we just disagree about approaches about fund balance. I've been an advocate in the past, when especially when the city of Norwalk was losing revenues during the Great Recession, of drawing down our fund balance because we didn't have any options at a very difficult time in the city of Norwalk, where, and in the country for that matter, where we had declining or flat growth rates with our grant list. We had incomes falling, state cutting back, et cetera, and it was the right time to use an emergency fund. And there's no rules being broken here. There's no guidelines being broken here. We have a range, and we have the ability to put it both toward capital projects, one-time expenses versus operating expenses. It is called out a one-time expenditure for the Board of Education, but we all know the way the budget works, the state of Connecticut law works, that money, once given to them, becomes their baseline for next year's ask. When we discussed this, I was given the impression that the Board of Ed was not filling some positions this year to try and make their numbers work for the ask that they worked out. And kudos for sitting down and having that discussion and working out. But the same token is that I think the intent was kind of alluded to, that those positions will be filled or asked for in next year's budget. And then in the 5-year budget that they requested, that might be going down, since this one went down, would necessarily be going down. The impression was that it seems like the Board of Ed still will want increases going into next year. So in a time where where we're saying, actually I think it's 17.1% that was in our books, our grant list grew, that I don't think it's the time to take that amount of money out of the fund balance and expend it that way. I think in this time, putting that money for extra roads, and even paying for $75,000 for the sidewalks that was in tonight's budget out of the fund balance would be a more appropriate appropriation, and picking one-time costs for some of the school overruns that we're going to have based on the budgets they originally gave us, some of that fund balance being applied to that versus us bonding, which creates more long-term debt. is the way the fund balance would be during good economic times. So that's my issue, is more with the $6 million and the totality of spending all that. I think the budget process probably is calmer. Well, it's been calm the last few years because we've had enough funding to go over that, to try and appease what they want. But my finding is that at some point the lines intersect, where you're having falling revenues and falling fund balance and rising tax rates and rising costs to the city of Norwalk, and there won't be the ability to draw down that fund balance. And if we, I think if we drew that line out, probably in 5 years or 4 years, we're a little bit of trouble where there won't be the ability to draw down fund balance unless that grows exponentially. So with that, I'm not going to be supporting that just because of the $6 million issue.
Thank you. Further discussion. Ms. Smith?
Yeah, I wear a lot of different hats here. As a teacher in the district, a parent of 3 children who've gone through our schools, taxpayer, and now as a common council member, I support this budget, and I support the drawdown on the fund balance. It's particularly healthy this year, and so because of that, I feel comfortable with that drawdown. And if we are using it to benefit taxpayers and our children, who are the future of our city and our country, for that matter, that's a win-win. So I hope that as this goes to the BET, that they will consider that. I'd also like to take this time to thank Mayor Rilling for your very fine support of our schools since you've been in office, and for the hard work of this council, past council, leadership, Mr. Hamilton, Ms. Focal, also to Dr. Adamowski for working very hard to keep this a collaborative effort this year. We have had 3 years in a row of historic increases in support of our schools, and that's something to be really proud of. So I think that when everyone works together, collaborates, everybody wins, and especially the kids, and that's what it boils down to. So, thank you.
Further discussion. Mr. Hostin?
I'd just like to say that I'm actually very comfortable with this budget resolution. I think that I'm proud that Norwalk is able to fund its operating obligations without adding extra tax burden to our residents. I think that the $6 million drawdown from the rainy day fund makes sense, in part because the fund has grown so large, and it's funded by Norwalk taxpayers, and I think it makes sense to not just sit on that taxpayer money, but to use it for Board of Ed expenses that make sense, and for tax relief in a revaluation year. I think everybody agrees that that level of drawdown is not necessarily sustainable, and it will be the fiscal duty of the mayor and the council next year, as it is every year, to reevaluate our revenue and expenses and make sure that we can proceed in a sustainable way, especially as we think about changes in the state budget that might affect Norwalk. But I think the point for me is that would be a consideration we'd have to make either way, whether we draw it down this year or not. It's gonna come to Mr. Hempstead's point, and we just have to be ready for it.
Further discussion. Just want to make a couple of comments because I think it's important to put things in perspective. Over the past, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, in 2012 to 13, $1 million was drawn down on fund balance, which the fund balance at that time represented 9.5% of our operating budget. 13-14, there was a $1.74 million drawdown. The fund balance represented 9.4% of our operating budget. In 2014-15, it was a $1 million drawdown, and the fund balance represented 10%. In 2015-16, there was a $1 million drawdown, and it represented 9.3% of our operating budget, the fund balance. 2016-17, there was a $2 million drawdown, and the fund balance represented 10.9% of our operating budget. And Tom and Angela, correct me if I've gotten these wrong, some of these things wrong. And it's unfortunate sometimes when people would ascribe evil intentions or ill intentions to certain things. During an election year in 2017, there was a zero drawdown on our fund balance. That was an election year, and it was the fund balance represented 12.5% of our operating budget. 1819, $2,950 drawdown, and the fund balance represented 11.8%. In 2019, with a proposed $6 million drawdown, 2.3% going into the Board of Education for one-time expenditures, the fund balance remains 12.7% of our the total operating budget. Now, the interesting thing, in each of those years, despite the drawdown on the fund balance grew. In 2012-13, it grew by $2.28 million. In 13-14, it grew by $4.4 million. In 14-15, it grew by $7.3 million. In 15-16, it grew by $6.3 million. 16-17, $4.5 million. And in 17-18, it grew by $5.6 million. And if Mr. Hamilton mentioned at the BET meeting and elsewhere that it doesn't seem that the allocated money for the $2.9 million in this year's budget may not be necessary to use. So I want to comment on the responsible department heads and the individuals that we have working for and running the city. They're very judicious in their spending. They only spend that which is necessary. For the most part, they live within their allocated budget, except when things are not able to, when unexpected things happen. So I'm very, very pleased. I meet with Dr. Adamowski. I know once a month we have lunch together and we discuss issues of importance to the Board of Education and kinds of things that we need to do to work together. We're also looking at the possibility of how we can combine our operations, our functions. So one area would be into finance, another area would be in IT, so that we can save dollars for the city of Norwalk. We're doing a lot, and I believe this budget is a fair budget. During a reval year, it's very, very difficult to look at some of the valuations that are coming out and explain to people how in 2013 your property values went down based on the recession, and now in 2018 those property values are going up in some cases 20 and 30%. It's very difficult for them to digest that and to accept it. So by looking at the fund balance, which I've always said is the fund balance, the money in our fund balance belongs to the taxpayers. And when we can take money out of the fund balance in order to give some tax relief, it's over 90% of our budget is paid for by the taxpayers. So when we can give them some sort of tax relief, I applaud that the council and the Board of Estimate and Taxation are willing to do that. Again, I can't thank Mr. Hamilton and Ms. Fogel and Ms. Lamb enough for stepping in, not only during a reval year, during a reorg year when we have to move people around in different line items, under different budget headings, but when the finance director left, I reached out to Dr. Adamowski. He immediately offered up Mr. Hamilton, and Mr. Hamilton told me that his participation would be limited, but knowing Mr. Hamilton, the type of individual he is, I'm not sure, but I think he might have spent more time on our budget than he did upstairs, and I thank him for that, and I thank the Common Council for the support of the budget, and with that, I will call for a vote. All in favor? Opposed? One opposed, Mr. Hempstead. Mr. Hempstead, do you have another motion?
Oh, to adjourn.
All in favor? Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, council.
Yeah.